Let's be honest about that. So as far as I know, this is just connecting. So I don't know if people are going to see us talking about how it's connecting.
I have it on my iPad and it's not showing up yet.
Perfect. Oh, there we go. Oh, it kind of did. Okay.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. We are just figuring out how the stream works, but now I'm also going to make sure that I mute that volume. Hi, guys. Okay. I'm excited. Thanks for letting me have some tech stuff. This is Vanessa, for those who don't know.
Hi.
She's a part of the Pigeon Letters design team, but she also is has built an empire. And
really? Okay.
We're
gonna go with that.
I will. She creates her own watercolor paints that are absolutely just gorgeous. And I'm sure that she will love to tell you guys all about them as we paint. But I know that nobody wants to hear a bunch of bleh in the beginning because we want to jump in. So one of the questions, though, that people had was on materials and what people should have ready.
I'm going a little out of the box here because I'm painting on black watercolor paper today. But whatever we make can be made on any color water paper, white, right? There's not like different colors. But yeah, I'm painting on black, but you can paint it on white as well. So hold on,
and then watercolors
and then watercolors. I use, so I am not like brand specific on watercolors. I use literally everything.
Even though she makes her own. Do you see how that inclusivity goes? Like when a product is good, you just use it.
I just use everything. So I'm going to be using, let me take out both of my palettes. So this is like my main palette, and this is the palette that I use. It's a mess, but it's my mess. I love it. And this is the palette that I use for almost every single Galaxy piece that I have. And I have colors from, Daniel Smith, Sennelier, Magello, Mission Gold, M. Graham. I have them all in here. And
it's just I think it just comes down to like, you experiment, you find your favorites.
Exactly. And then I have my handmade watercolors that I'm going to be using some neons from here.
Yes.
So these here. And I am also using some white ink. So this is Copic Opaque White, and it is sort of like an alcohol-based ink, but you can substitute this with white wash, white acrylic, white watercolor, although white watercolor can be very light, but any white medium you can use. And then I have a variety of brushes that I always just keep on hand, different sizes. Use a size that you feel comfortable with. I feel more comfortable with larger sizes, and then I use the smaller ones for details, but mostly I paint with like 8 and up. But use what you feel comfortable with. Oh, and then a white gel pen. And this paper is the...
is it Legion?
Yeah, it's the Legion Stone Black. I love this paper.
I know, it's so good. You know what it is for me? It's their packaging.
It is. It's just so aesthetically pleasing.
It really is. That like, what is it? The gloss on matte.
Yes.
Gloss black on matte black.
I love it.
So good.
All right. And then I have some tools, and I always keep everything you see here. I literally always keep it right by my desk, right in front of me, because on a day-to-day basis, I don't know what I'm going to paint. I just sit down and paint. So I have a helix maker, and this is like a super fancy tool to make circles, but you don't need that. You can use like a jar, some tape, anything you have on hand. And then I have a ruler because I can't make straight lines to save my life. And that's it. And a pencil.
I love it. And what is it that we are creating today, Miss Vanessa?
I have no idea.
You're like, this is what you'll need for this project that is yet to be determined.
Exactly, because this is what I have around me. And so one of the things for the summer creative retreat, I talk about my process of painting, and it's intuitive painting. And I literally like maybe like 95% of the time, I don't know what I'm going to paint when I sit down to paint. So I just start.
That's
And I usually
perfect.
start with a circle.
That's perfect. Okay, let's intuitively paint as a preview for what's to come. If you guys don't know what Summer Creative Retreat is, if you literally go to summercreativeretreat.com,
Yes.
you will see. What are we talking about? Oh, this is my brain. There are over 100 artists that will be joining us for 2 weeks for live workshops, which is going to be really fun. I guess we're streaming live. Not all of them are live, but people will be in there live. Anyway, you get what I'm saying.
I'm excited for that.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So
okay, I just thought of what I'm going to paint.
You figured it out?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, listen, really quickly, I just want to point out that all Vanessa did was drew a circle on her paper and it came to her. And I can't tell you how many times I tell people, like, just put pen to paper. Just do it. It may not come as fast as it just came for her, but
well, I've been doing this for 3 years now.
Just
so when I first started painting, it was just like blobs on my paper, but then it eventually became something.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
All right, I'm going to start with like a colorful planet here, and we're going to do some water here with sort of like a reflection of it.
I love that.
We do that. And then some mountains on the side.
Oh, you're so cool. That's so fun. It's like, I know I'm facilitating and watching chat, but it's like, maybe I should just play along. Maybe I should just play too. But luckily, not luckily, you guys, you can be as chatty as you want to, but I will say the chat is kind of quiet, and it's probably because this is a work along instead of a, webinar type, but.
So the first thing I'm going to do is just, I did a full circle, but luckily I did it light enough where it won't really show. So I'm just going on the very first half of the circle. I'm just going to just add water.
Yeah, so all we're doing is only water right now, no paint?
No paint.
Okay.
Is anyone painting along?
Do you have a suggestion on how much water to use? Do you want to make a sheen? Do you want to make a puddle?
Yes, no puddles. Stay away from the puddles. Just sheen, just a sheen of water. And if you have any puddles on your paper, I always keep a paper towel on hand. Just dry your brush off and just pick up that puddle. But yeah, no puddles.
No puddles. What's going to happen if there's a puddle? I'm asking questions that I know are it's funny. Anyway.
Well, if there's a puddle, you'll run the chance of like the rest of the paper drying, and then you'll have a little puddle of water that takes a lot longer to dry. And then you'll have sort of like this hard water line between the puddle and the rest of the paper.
And also a hard concentrated area when you're probably wanting more of a seamless blend. You guys that are that are asking about the paper, this is Legion cold press watercolor paper. So you can use mixed media, but what I want to say on Vanessa's behalf is that if you use mixed media paper that's like a 90 pound, it's going to be a lighter weight. So you see this, she's doing a pretty thick or a pretty, what's it called? Large wash. So mixed media paper doesn't like that as much as watercolor paper, just because watercolor paper is thicker and can withstand that water media. But you can if that's what you have. But yeah, it's Legion black watercolor paper.
And it's cold press, and cold press typically stays wet a lot longer. So you can work your piece for longer than with a non-cotton watercolor paper.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any recommendations for people who are having issues with water sheens that keep drying, other than cold press
What I typically do, because I work with a lot of different types of paper, just so that people will see that it doesn't necessarily have to be this paper. So what I typically do is, while I'm working on one end of the paper, I'll just be sure, let's say I'm working over here, I'll just be sure to go back and just add some more water over here, just to keep it wet. And if you see the sheen, you'll be able to see the areas that are drying, and just add a little bit more water as you go. And then go back to what you were doing.
Perfect. So now
Okay, so
we're adding this opaque Copic ink.
yes, and it's just white. I like to add a concentrated amount along the edges and then bring it out. And then
You guys,
just
I
pull it
can't
out.
wait. I hope that everyone is working along because her results are just like incredible. So it's just so nice to watch it in real time.
Thank you. We're gonna add some color on top of this when we're done.
Debbie, what she was saying was that you can do this same thing with regular watercolors and white paper. Just use like a light color instead of white. You're going to have a really cool effect also. She just decided to do black to put a fun spin on stuff.
Yeah.
But you can do the same technique. Just pick like a I'm going to say to just for fun, I'm going to pick your color. Do either do either like a light, okay, so for the white, do like a light pink or a light like peach orange?
That's what I'm gonna use now because you said it.
Yes. This is
I'm going
when
to
it
add
comes,
that.
oh yeah.
All right, let me bring this over. I actually have like a peach pink here.
Ooh, the neon, it's so good. So
Yeah.
this is Vanessa, one of Vanessa's handmade watercolors that she creates. Just watch this pigment. Bam. Oh, and you know in real life that's so much more vibrant and it's
Oh
still
yeah,
so
it really
vibrant
is.
on video.
And for this, you don't even need to put the base of white because it just shows up super bright on the black paper.
Yeah.
I'm just
And
gonna
that's the
let
thing,
that
like
flow.
not all of these colors are super opaque like that. Like when I say all these colors, I mean watercolors. So that's another thing to think about with like black watercolor paper. Don't be upset if you're not getting the same results because sometimes it's just like the pigment, not the quality, but just the what's it called, Vanessa? You make paints.
What?
Just the oh my gosh, it's not concentration, it's just like no pigment is created equally kind of thing.
Oh
Esther,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes, this will
Oh,
be permanent on the YouTube page, so yeah, you'll be able to rewatch.
I'm gonna
It'll also
put
be up on the
on
blog.
this side regular watercolor so that you'll see like non-neon. So if you
Opacity,
really
yeah,
think,
you guys,
yeah,
I know that the
there you
chat
go.
or the video is just slightly delayed, but yes, opacity. It's, you know what, it's fine, I can never find my words. I want to have an excuse, and it's like literally every time I jump on live, I'm like, I don't know how to speak. It's cool. So Monica was asking, I love how we can see the sheen on your paper.
Yes.
I'll have to play with my light to achieve that. Any advice?
With your light?
I think maybe, Monica, do you mean like, I know that your delay is gonna, or your delay, see, I can't talk. Your response is gonna be delayed slightly because of the stream, but I do wanna help you answer. I think that Vanessa just has like an overhead light, and so that's why we can see the
Yes,
sheen more.
I do. I just moved the overhead light so it's not quite on it so you can see it a little bit better. But if you take your paper and hold it up to the light and just sort of do this, just to look at it, you'll be able to see it.
Perfect. Thank you. Ooh, the chat's not as delayed as I mean, the video's not as delayed as I thought it was.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, I'm
Directional
gonna add
light.
some blue and just some regular. I'm going to be using, let's see, this is turquoise blue, no, turquoise green by Sennelier. I'm just gonna add a little.
Sennelier. I always say Sennelier.
I don't even know if I say it right.
I'm fancy like that. I just only recognize how to say everything. Oh gosh, you guys know the word hyperbole? Years hyperbole.
Oh.
It was real cool of me. You know, Hyperbole, the book Hyperbole. And like people would look at me like, is this just supposed to be a cute joke? No, it was not. Esther has a question that I don't want you, since we're working, I'm gonna kind of answer it for you and then you can
Okay.
add in.
Okay.
But real quick, I just want to say it looks like we have now placed white, mostly concentrated on the left around the sphere to the top. We've got this neon, beautiful pinky salmon, and then this blue on the right, and then the blue on the left, and they're kind of merging together.
Yes.
Do you have any tips on how you do the merge in the middle?
I kind of put them down, and as long as it's wet, I let the water
Do the
do it
work.
for me. Yeah. I try not to mess with it too much. If there are areas like here that don't have a lot of like that merging, I'll add some extra pigment in there, but I mostly just let the water do what the water does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
that's
try
the
not to
thing.
mess
Like,
with
it's hard for us when we're painting because we're like, okay, we have control, but we also have to release control. And some of that means being patient sometimes.
it. Yes.
You
That's
probably
hard.
agree with this, but one of the things that I really like to do is after the water does its job, because it bleeds out, it can lose a little bit of its pop. And so it
Mhm.
looks like exactly what you're doing is going back in
Yeah.
again with more pigment as it's getting a little bit drier
Yes.
so that you can add that pop back in. And then it's almost like when you build up shading
Hmm.
for dimension and depth.
Exactly.
Cool. Monica, I also crick my neck to see the sheen. I do not pick it up and look. I'm like down there. Okay, I'm gonna answer this for Vanessa, even though I'm totally a noob, and she will be better at answering this. But her question was, in a very quick way, that's why I'm doing this. Can you explain how to make watercolor? I just have no idea how, which totally. Okay.
Okay.
So
Go for
what
it.
I will tell you, because I've gotten so deep, and Vanessa, will you just totally interrupt me if you have to, oh, like right now, interrupt me and explain what you're doing.
Oh, if you saw that there were some pockets where there were no color, I just added some blue in it. That's it.
She added the contrasting color in the pockets,
Yeah.
and you can see this kind of starting to come together almost like gases mixing, which is really,
Exactly.
really fun. Okay, so basically, there are different types of pigments. There are chemical, like man-made chemistry versions of pigments, and then there are natural earth pigments. But basically, those are ground up into a fine powder. You can buy them or you can create them. To create them, you want to take that powder, or take, like, maybe it could be a stone or whatever it is, and take a mortar and pestle and you grind it into the finest powder that you possibly can. It's labor intensive, but it's very fun. Vanessa, do you have something real quick?
No, you're
Okay,
doing
cool.
great.
And then
The
once it's
man-made ones are called the synthetic pigments.
which ones?
Synthetic.
Oh, thank you. I knew that. Um, yes, not chemistry versions. I mean, they are, but you get it. Okay, real quick, water sheen, it looks like, along the bottom line that you drew.
Yes, and this is still wet, so if a little bit of pigment runs down into it, that's a-okay.
Cool. And then once the powder is fine, you will take a non-porous surface like granite or marble or glass, and you will take I keep forgetting people can't see us because we can in Zoom.
Oh.
You'll take something called a muller, Muller, and it's basically a glass handle with a flat bottom that's just a little bit textured, not really to the touch, but what that does is when you mix a binder with your paint, you take the muller on top of that. So it's pigment to binder, and binders, basically you can make any kind of paint depending on the binder that you use.
Mhm.
Watercolor paint is used most often with gum arabic. Gum arabic you can buy powder version and make it yourself, or you can buy it pre-done. A lot of watercolor companies have little pre-done tubes where you don't have to get everything else like clove oil and all the preservative stuff. Like, you can just buy the thing. Vanessa might have some words about that.
I make my own.
Yeah. Oh, see, I'm not surprised. Then you will create the consistency that you want. So this is like a trial and error situation. Why don't you explain what you're doing really fast before I
Okay,
beat
I'm just adding some shadows to the water. Um, and I'm just taking the same exact colors and laying them in sort of the same place, but not as dark as I did on top.
Perfect. And also notice that she is kind of going inward toward the bottom to
Yes.
mock the shape of the sphere so that, right?
Yes, exactly.
Cool. All right. Back to paint making. So it's, I'm trying to do this really fast. Okay. See, like,
You're doing great.
let's say you have oil, like walnut oil or linseed oil, and then you have your pigment. That's a really easy 1-to-1. Like, you don't mix anything else with oil paint. I know that's not everyone's ideal medium, but that's a really easy way to get started with making paint so that you can kind of see how it works. But yeah, basically any binder, there's like acrylic medium that you can mix with pigment to make acrylic paint. There are tubes that you can put your made paint in to preserve them. Okay, Vanessa. It seems like okay, no. I'm watching your face and I'm like, wait, do you have something to say?
Oh no, no. I'm trying to move it out of the ring light so that you don't just see the reflection of
Oh,
the light.
gotcha. Oh, it looks so cool. Okay, so but yeah, and then you mull it. So you put it on this surface and then you take the muller, and after mixing with a palette knife the binder and the paint together, you start to like further grind it by hand until it gets into a consistency that you want. And honestly, no pigment again is created equally, so this takes trial and error every single time. You're going to mix more binder or less, just depends. And that's in a nutshell how you make paint.
When I'm making a new color or like a new collection of colors, it usually takes about 1 to like 3 months to like perfect the color
Yeah,
because you
I
have to
believe
wait
that.
for them to dry. You have to like test them out, and it's just a bunch of so right now I'm working on a collection that's coming out in September.
Yeah. That's actually really soon. How long have you been working on it?
Since the beginning of the year.
Yeah, exactly. It's a process. I know I'm convincing Vanessa to now she's putting the opaque white along the horizon line. And why?
I just wanted to give it a misty feel.
Cool. It's funny because it's like I don't want to answer everything for you. So I'm like, why do you do this? Yeah, so I'm convincing Vanessa because I have been so obsessed with finding earth pigments, and I'm convincing her to play with me and let me send her some pigments so she can make paint. Because oh my gosh, I hated it. I was so bad at it. I love grinding it into powder, and she doesn't like that part, so it's perfect.
No way.
I'm like, no. Okay, so for those who are just joining and that you're adding this white sheen, can you re-explain the composition of what you're doing?
Okay, so I am just doing a like sort of like I was gonna go with a moon theme, but I was like, I can't really work a moon theme on this if I wanted to use color on black paper. So we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna do with like a little colorful little planet. We're gonna add to it. I'm just waiting for it to dry. Coming up behind the water, and now we're doing the reflection of the water, and then we'll add a few more details to the water. And also, what else? Oh, a mountain on this side.
Perfect.
Maybe a little one over here. I'm not 100% sure. I just want to push the moon back just a little bit by adding some mountains in the forefront.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be so cool. And
Okay.
then I wanted to also point out that Vanessa had mentioned how, like, as she's working, if she sees that sheen start to dry, she'll return as she's working and just get water reapplied to the areas that she needs it to be. So I had noticed that she's been
Yep.
doing that. So
And if you
if
see
that
here, that's
helps,
what's happening here. The bottom part is drying, so I'm just going to go back in and just add some water to
perfect.
this bottom part.
You guys, this is excuse my newbiness to YouTube lives. I swear I've done them before, but do you guys see that giant yellow box around my name, or is that just me so I know where I said something? I know there's going to be a delay. but I'm still curious.
I am so
Yeah.
sorry if you could hear my child in the background.
No. I feel like background noise is always so much louder to us. Oh, you see the giant yellow box? Okay. Because I'm special because it's my channel. Well, cool. That's good to know because if I need to share a link ever, then it'll be easy to spot.
I switched to a smaller brush. And
Smaller brush.
yes, I'm going to add some highlights to the water. Maybe just on this side. I'm not sure yet. We'll see.
And then is that a 2 round?
This is, yes, it's a 2 round.
Perfect. You guys, those who don't see the yellow box, it might be the device, like maybe it's the app or the mobile device or something like that. Yeah, that makes sense. But still good to know. Thanks for humoring me on that one. Okay, now what are you doing?
All right, I'm using the broad part of the brush. So I'm pressing down when it's closer to the edge. And then I switch to the tip of the brush as it gets closer to the middle. And I'm just doing little wiggly lines here. Nothing too crazy. Just to add a little texture to this side.
And this is to give the illusion of a light reflection, right?
Yes.
Why, so cool. You guys, you think this looks good now? Just you wait, just you wait.
My favorite part is the end where we add all the details to it.
Mm-hmm. Because it's like those really subtle things that are like, they take not even a full second and then bam.
Okay, now I'm just going to add a couple here and there.
And then I just want to also point out that Vanessa is slightly angling her squiggly lines slightly back and forth. And that, I assume, is to give the illusion of movement.
Yes.
Great.
Exactly.
What color do we use on white paper? Okay, are you asking me to choose? Because I love this. No. No, you can choose any color at all. If you are painting with my suggested, if you're doing white and your planet is either a light pink or a peach salmon-y color like I chose for everybody earlier, let's make your water like a plum. Or like a navy. No, because you want that light color. So change mind. Let's go with Vanessa, you choose.
I like the plum.
Okay, we'll do it.
Okay, I tend to take things overboard. I don't know when to stop. So I'm going to force myself to stop right there.
Yes. You guys, listen up. This is a lesson. Okay, she's stopping. It might not feel like she wants to, but she's stopping and she's doing such a good job.
It's really hard for me to stop.
I know. I think that we can all relate to that.
Okay, so now I am going to do a quick outline of like a mountain with the white.
Perfect. If people don't have, let's say, because there are a handful of people who have black watercolor paper, if somebody doesn't have a white opaque paint or what you're using, I know you mentioned white gouache, white watercolor doesn't work as well.
White acrylic may.
Huh?
Acrylic may as well. White
yeah.
acrylic.
Perfect. So acrylic paint. And if you guys want a more like an effect that is softer, you can always mix it with water too, acrylic paint. Esther, she's not done. She says, shouldn't there be stars in the sky?
Oh no, that's the best part. That's the end.
That's like those finishing pops of like awesomeness. I love it so much.
You have to wait for that part.
I don't know if she's in here and I'm not going to call her out, but yesterday I posted something on my stories because I was in the sun and it was just like perfectly reflecting my stretch marks so much. And I was like, I'm just going to put out a PSA, like, this is normal and awesome. And then don't worry, it's somebody I really like, but she DMs me and she's like, your knees look a little bit dry. You need this and this and this. I'm like, excuse me. That's hair. And she's like, maybe it's the lighting. It was just funny. And Esther, the whole you need some stars just reminded me of that. And I just appreciate this directness so much.
I'm switching back to a bigger brush. This is a size 8.
8.
Just so that I can add water to the inside of the mountains. Now that I just like roughly sketched them here.
And so I want to also point out, Vanessa did the outline toward the top. She made the white come down a little bit, and now adding the water, it's almost creating a little bit of a bleed downward, but she's not pulling the white or putting the white specifically directly near the bottom. She's allowing that water to do its blend from the white downward into the water. Yeah, that.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little trick to make like super, super quick and easy mountains because they don't have to be super detailed. So what I do is I look at every peak and every valley of the mountain, right? So I'm gonna take this one. I'll take this one and then let me dry my brush off so I'm not adding water. I'll take this peak and then this little valley here, and then I'll do like a little V. And then I will shade that part in. And then I'll allow it to just bleed out.
Tricks.
Just a nice little shading trick. You don't, I know that you can go really into detail with the mountains, but I don't want to. No, I like them to be quick and easy. I'll add a couple of angles here and there to make them a little bit more natural, but I'll do that with a couple of little peaks and valleys. And I also want to make sure that they're all in the same direction. So I'll do this one, but I won't do this one. I'm gonna skip that one and go here and here.
So you find a peak and then you connect it to a valley, and then you kind of jagged, angled line down and then let that bleed out.
Yes.
Awesome.
You can make them tall, you can make them shorter. I made that one really, really bright and white. You don't have to do that. But I'm going to add a little bit of color to that. So
Julie's asking, will Chinese white from Winsor Newton work? And I'll just say yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know the answer.
I tried it, but it sounds like it could.
It does. I have that one. I think it's a water-based gouache, or is it the watercolor Chinese white? It should work, though. I feel like Chinese whites are always pretty pigmented. If anything, you might just want to lay the white down and then come back in afterwards and just add more pigment. But yeah, it should be good.
And then I'll just add a few little just like dots of color here and there, but not too many. That was way too white.
It's so interesting because it's like the process of when we paint, we look at things and we're like, is this looking right? I don't know. But you guys, one of the biggest tips that I can give you ever is when you're feeling, even do it with Vanessa's right now, because we're really involved in this painting, look away for a second, and really take something else in, and then look back and you see this like, bam, this like whole scene, and it's so cool. So don't get too stuck in your process. That's also another way to figure out how to stop. If you're like, oh, I have a trouble stopping, look away or get up and walk away and then come back to it. And then you'll see like, oh gosh, this is really progressing. Esther said, well, listen, when we work so often with you, Peggy, we can't help but be concerned about your dry knees. Oh my gosh, this makes me so happy. It's these little things that really just make I appreciate you guys. Okay. That's good.
Okay, and now I'm going to add a little bit of color on top of that white.
Ooh, Monica, really good question. And I'm going to actually have Vanessa answer this for her opinion. What's the purpose of the tape around the edge of the paper? Is it to give it a border or some other reason?
So that my paper doesn't curl up around the edges. It does give it a nice border, but the main reason is so that my paper doesn't start curling up around the edges. It makes it really hard to get like to work the areas over here if your paper is curling inwards.
Mm-hmm. So do you wrap it? Do you connect it to the other side?
Yeah, let me show you. Ta-da.
Oh, I have never known somebody to do that. I've always known people just to tape it directly to,
To a surface.
yeah.
Yeah, I do that as well, but I also like to move my paper around a lot, and the surface
Mm-hmm.
seems to impede me a lot.
Oh, that's so smart.
You know what I usually do is I have anytime I buy a watercolor pad, I always take the back of it off when I'm done with it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I use to stick it on. But not today.
Not today.
Not today.
No, it is really smart because I think that there's a lot of us who can relate also to moving the paper around always, which is why easels and I are very, very much only acquaintances.
Mm. I have never worked on an easel. It just seems to,
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah,
impeding. If
totally. Okay, what are you doing now?
I'm just adding a little bit of the orange of the moon or the peach orange to the top of the mountain, just to give it a little bit of color. And I'm not going to blend it too much. I'm just going to allow it just to fall into the white. And if it doesn't fall, it doesn't fall.
Yeah. But the nice thing is, guys, what this is doing, since she's doing it only to the top, it's almost like this planet is glowing and then the light is being caught by the tops of the mountains. And it's just kind of like this added, enhanced um, pop. Yeah. See how
Yeah.
already it looks like it's reflecting off of the glow? So cool. Question, when will the next session be? Never received an email about today, only knew about it because Vanessa posted on her Instagram. So this is an impromptu live. We are just playing. Vanessa's on the Pigeon Letters design team, and we decided that her monthly tutorial should be live because that's so fun. And so we're just going for it. These are impromptu. Typically, I I want to give you an answer so bad, but like let's be real. My name is Peggy Dean and I am not consistent when it comes to jumping on. In fact, I like to jump on lives as much as I like to go out and do something with people. Like I don't like plans. If you if you text me and you're like, let's go to the thrift store, I'm like, cool. But if you're like, let's go to the thrift store on Friday, I'm like, we'll see. So, and then cancel plans are my favorite. So they are impromptu, but if you are referring to the next session in regard to the summer creative retreat, that is happening August 2nd through the 12th, and they will be back to back to back to back, and they are all free, and you can register for it on summercreativeretreat.com. Just an FYI. Okay, look at that glow though.
Yay.
And then you can see
This right
that.
here is bugging me.
What are you going to do about
I have no idea.
it?
I
You
think
could
I'm going
just
to add
add
white and
a
then add color.
slight amount more. Yeah, exactly what you're doing. Just to bring it out more so that there's not a hard line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for giving you your own
Oh, that's
tutorial.
good. We're on the same wavelength.
I know it. I know. But that's like a thing, you guys, like you'll see stuff that bugs you and then you totally are just improvising as you go. And that's the thing I love about like how we started this. Vanessa's like, I'm gonna do intuitive painting. Well, I think that painting in general, even if you have a topic, is very intuitive.
Yes.
So you have a lot of these opportunities that come up where you're constantly, shifting according to the control that you're trying to release, allowing watercolor to do its thing.
Absolutely. I'm going to add some more water down here to pull
And
some of it,
why?
just to pull some of the mountains down.
Perfect. for the glow on the wall. I also wanted to point out that, do you see how because of the spread of the planet, where the mountains overlap the planet, there is like a strong differentiation from the mountain and the background, and that's because of the saturation and also the white base in the mountains versus that smooth kind of creamy or blend in the background. And it had already dried in that spot, so that was easier to make pop. Question from Elizabeth: what is the most difficult thing for you to paint with watercolor?
Anything that has, well, for me, the most difficult thing is anything that how do I put this? Like anything that has like a structure to it. Like if I'm looking at like flowers, I can't paint them no matter how much I've tried. And I think it's because I've gotten so used to this type of painting where there really are no like rules to
Yeah.
it. And like I don't have to put this color here or that color there. And this
Yeah.
is so much easier for me to paint than painting something that I'm looking at. Like, you know, a jar or a flower or a building. That takes a lot of practice and time for me.
I hear you. See, but like you could also do those very loosely. Like I feel the same way. Like there are some artists who are so dang intricate. And
Yeah.
I just look at that and I think, A, the patience. And then I think, B, wow, that probably takes a minute. It really just ties all into patience. But it's like, yeah, it's, I would say it's style choices too. Ooh, what are you doing now?
Okay, so I just took a flat brush. I didn't show this in the beginning. Sorry, I just grabbed it from my jar. And this to me looked really harsh. So I'm just going to smooth it out a little with a flat brush.
Now, was that spot fully dry or was it like still? And wait, how long? So if something looks harsh and it's not bleeding the way that you want it to, maybe because you didn't have, ideal amount of water, for whatever the reason,
Mhm.
you basically, how dry was that before you started to try to spread it?
That was fully dry. No, actually, that wasn't fully dry. That was, let me see. That was almost fully dry. So I'm touching the top of the moon or the planet, and that one is not fully dry either. So it was sort of like that. It wasn't 100% dry, but I say about 85% dry.
Okay. And the
Um,
and the white that you're using, I actually don't know the answer to this, is a permanent. So
it's
technically once it
semi-permanent.
semi. So is it, but it's not water based, right?
It is alcohol based.
Okay. So in theory, once that's dry, 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 you wouldn't
Yeah,
have the ability to continue to soften it.
not at all.
Cool.
Not at all. So I'm just going to add a little bit more on top.
Yeah, because once you smooth it out, it will have that nicer blend, but then it will take away a little bit of that saturation.
Yeah.
So adding a little bit more in will
Oops, that's too much.
add that detail in. You have love from Kim. I love,
Kim.
love, love Vanessa. She's the bomb, bombity, bomb, and dig doggifer do.
Oh, geez.
Don't
That's a
ask me what
Kimism.
that is, but it's good. Love you, Nessie. Dig doggifer do. That's a new one, and I'm into it.
All right, so I'm done with the water for now.
Okay.
I'm hardly ever done with anything until I walk away. But for
Yep.
now, I'm done with the water. And I'm going to go back in to this planet and smooth it out a little bit.
Cool. So the
And add some,
planet is mostly dry.
yes, it's mostly dry. And I'm going to add a little bit of detail. So I'm wetting it, but I'm doing it really lightly, just barely skimming the brush on the paper. Just really lightly. And I'm cleaning it off quite a bit in between so that the colors don't run into each other.
That's a really good tip because I think that we don't realize how much when something is, even if it's mostly dry, how much our brushes can pick up the color. And then when we, like, as she's dragging from that neon into the blue or vice versa, like she's going to pick up the blue and then go back into the neon, but then it could then add the blue in where she doesn't want it to. So it's a good tip to, when you're doing this blend, just quickly rinse and continue. Gosh, it's so fun to do a tutorial with somebody else.
What exciting.
I think this is the first time that I've ever hosted one where I'm not the one doing it. And gosh, it's fun.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm going to add some swirly motions with the white.
That's the technical term, you guys.
Yes.
Swirly motions. And do you have any structure to where you're placing this white?
No.
Perfect.
I am so not helpful.
No, it's really helpful because these are questions that I would assume people would have. And as they're working, and if it's an intuitive process, then it's nice to kind of get into somebody else's head who does it regularly.
So the only thing that I guess I could say that I'm really doing is I am giving it sort of like, I'm not going straight across. I'm giving it a curve so that it gives it the illusion of like being round.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, that's about as much thought as I'm putting into it.
Mm-hmm. And the white, with that water wash that she just used is going to do some bleeding also. And it's going to act like a highlight, which is just going to emphasize that glow. Oh, this is so cool.
And I'm doing it really lightly so that the paint underneath doesn't lift up. But if it does, you can go back in. So I put a little bit more of that color under my brush, on my brush, and then I can just add that back in there.
The blend, and then it's going to blend in with the white. So there are no mistakes.
None at all.
Ooh, 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 ooh. So do you do this to the entire front side or full side, or do you have like more focused in one particular area?
No, I just kind of, okay, so one thing that this is a good way to answer this, because one thing that I typically do whenever I'm painting is I change my perspective. So once I am done adding maybe 2 or 3 swirls to it, I will either stand up and look at it from a different angle, or I will pick the paper up and look at it from that angle. So changing my perspective always really helps. It helps me to look at any gaps that need to be filled in, or any parts that seem a little bit unfinished. Changing my perspective always helps.
Perfect. That's helpful. I'm just typing in the chat as if I can't just talk to people. Teresa said, look at that fine brush tip though. And I said, Teresa, yes, with a wink face. But then I was like, oh my gosh, YouTube supports emojis now, apparently. Like, and then you guys are responding with emojis. And I did not even click, but I did like, the old text semicolon parentheses symbol, and it just went. So I felt really special. Also, that millennials are no longer the in people. We are dinosaurs.
Oh God, I'm Gen X. What am I then?
Wait, what are you?
Gen X.
Isn't that younger than millennial?
No.
Yeah. It's older. No.
Yes.
Older is you guys.
Gen Z is younger.
No, wrong. Millennials, and then Gen X, and then Gen Z.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, huh? I'm looking it up. I'm doing it. Okay.
No.
What is
say the crowd?
No, I have to be right. What is before millennials? Okay, here we go. Check it out. Oh, maybe you're right. No. Okay. Oh, you are right.
Yeah.
So have I been complaining about the Gen Xers as if they are the teenagers? And
Oh
it's
my gosh, have you
really,
really?
so why, okay. So why do we get a special name? There's Gen X, which is between 1965 and 1979/80. And then there's Gen Y, which is millennials born between 81 and 94/6. And then there's literally a Gen Y.1 and
What?
Generation Y.2.
I've
That's
never
really
heard of
funny.
that.
I know. Well, Gen Y.1, or maybe it's like point one, I don't know. They are, I don't know when this article was up. 2021. Okay, so they are between 25 and 29, and there's Gen Y.2, 29 and 39. That's me. And then Gen Z is the newest. Okay, fine, you were right. Oh,
Yeah.
man, I hate it. I hate when I'm wrong. Yeah, we are elder millennials. Curious is saying we're elder millennials.
We're like, Gen X is like ancient at this point.
Oh my gosh, can you even? That's so weird. Baby boomer here. Do we need an intervention? Zennial is a Gen X and millennial. I bet you that's the Gen Y.1. That makes sense. Maybe that's the special term for it. Well, I'm a real millennial. Did you know there's a color for millennials? It's millennial pink.
Yes. Why can't we have our own color?
I know. You should assign it. It reminds me of school colors, but pink, the millennial pink is a gorgeous color, I will say.
It really is.
I didn't used to be much on pink, but that one's a good one. This is fun. Now there's someone saying they're Gen Z. This reminds me of when everyone's like talking about, oh, what's your Enneagram? Oh, what's your Myers-Briggs? Okay,
I never got into that. It was so confusing to me.
I thought so too, but I found a site. This isn't helpful at all. Actually, while you're talking about what you're doing, oh no, I don't know where it is. Never mind. I bought a book that was really helpful, and it's like really user-friendly and short and colorful and like good for the mind of a creative and not just words. And it really helped break it down for me, and now I'm really into it. But I want to tell you guys what it is, because otherwise it's not really helpful to say. Okay, explain what you're doing. I'm going to just look and see if it's really quickly accessible.
Okay, I am just smoothing out the edges of the water. It seemed a little bit patchy to me, so I'm just smoothing them out a bit and then adding a tiny bit more white to give it more of a glow.
Perfect. It was so accessible and so fast. I will tell you, it is called What's Your Enneatype? And it's by Liz Carver and Josh Green.
Oh, okay. I'm going to.
It's like short and color coded. It's wonderful. That's the only book I ever needed. Thanks for humoring my obsession with personality tests. What is the color for the baby boom? Oh, I thought this was going to be for baby boomers, gray, white, like our hair. Gosh, I'm going to see if there are colors for other generations. Baby boomer color. Well, this is funny. They are drawn to soothing colors that cool and refresh the spirit. Sky blue azures, cleansing blues enhanced with purple tones, and intense iridescent blues with the slightest tinge of green.
Oh, that's sweet.
This is according to Sherwin-Williams.
Wait a second. I think I may be biased.
Totally, yeah, 100%. They're like, this is what this age group likes on their walls. Okay, we're not going to do this right now. I assign, unless somebody else does something first. Let's see. I'm really feeling like a golden yellow color. Like goldenrod. That's what it is.
That's a pretty color.
Right? Yeah. There you go. That's what it is. Official. This is set in stone. Okay, what are we doing now?
Since I wet the bottom twice, it took away some of the glow from the planet, some of the moon,
Okay.
some of the color. So I'm just adding it back in really quickly.
This is looking so cool. You guys do the thing again where you look away, really grasp whatever separate thing you're looking at, and then look back and you'll see just like the pop all over again. It's so fun.
Okay.
I have a second monitor for this live stream. So I've got it like my big normal size, but then this tiny size, every time I look back and forth, it's like a totally new piece. And I'm like, oh, it's so cool.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna add the stars now. Yay.
Oh my God.
For who wanted the stars? I don't remember.
Esther, this is for you.
Esther. Okay, I want a fine spray of stars, so I'm gonna go with a smaller brush. And I'll bring my water thing over here. I am going to just load it with water. And I'm not going to do this. I'm gonna load it and I'm just gonna tap any excess off. And then dip it into whatever white medium you're using, load it up. And
this part's my favorite.
I'm going to tap with another brush. And if it gets into the planet, I am okay with that. If you don't like that, then just cover it up.
And would you wait for it to, maybe this is obvious, would you wait for it to dry before you cover it up?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes. But you guys, it's like part of the glow almost. Like you see it, you see it reflecting off the water. Like everything's basically bouncing off of it. It's each other. And that's so fun.
And I'm going to go in with a bit drier brush because I had a lot of water on this brush. So I'm going to go in with a bit drier just to add a few to the water, but not too many.
For that reflection. So pretty. So here's a question for you.
Okay.
Do you ever encounter when you are tapping that everything is like going in one direction? And if so, do you vary and change the direction of your tap in order to prevent that?
Yes. And I kind of do it automatically. I don't know if I did it here.
I don't know either.
I usually go like this.
Yeah.
Just to,
make sure everything
in different directions.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have noticed that sometimes when you tap, it's like, gosh, why doesn't mine look like theirs? Because it's going just like directly off the brush sometimes.
Yeah.
Vanessa's just a pro, so.
I add splatter to everything that it doesn't even necessitate splatter, but I'll add it anyway because I love it.
Yeah. Oh, Debbie's asking, what color would you paint the sky if on white paper?
I usually paint them dark blue. So I usually paint the sky about 4 or 5 different shades of blue. I like to have a lot of different dimension. Yeah, just like let me show you.
Yeah. So, and then as you're grabbing that, would you paint the sky after the moon and mountains are dry?
Yes. So it depends on what kinds of aesthetic you're looking for. You can either paint it after, or you can like sketch out your piece and then paint the outline of it. Or you can do this is what I usually do. And I'm going to show you a piece that I did. Here's one, and this has a bunch of different shades of blue on it. So what I did with this one was I sketched out the moon first, then I painted the background, and then I added the details. What I also do is I'll paint the entire paper in my background color and then build the details on top. But I'll start it off really light and then build the details and then add the rest of the color to the background afterwards.
So you paint you sketch the moon, paint the entire background, and then maybe place a white and then add details on top of that for the moon?
No, what I usually do is I'll just paint it, let's say a light blue. So maybe this color blue, maybe a little bit lighter. And then I'll use that as like my base. And then I will add the moon add the details on it. And usually it's so light that whatever color I put on the moon will cover that up.
Mm-hmm.
I will introduce white if I want lighter areas, but not all the time.
Perfect. Perfect.
All right, I think we need some shooting stars.
Yes.
Let me prime my pen here. Okay. All right, so I'm just using a white gel pen, and this is the Uniball Signal white gel pen.
My favorite. I think it's
Yeah,
safe
it's
to
the
say it's
best.
everyone's favorite.
Yeah. So it's super easy. And I sometimes I'll use a ruler for this, but sometimes I wing it. But I have to do it really fast so that I don't so that I don't make it all wobbly. I'll stick my pen down in a spot and flick.
Ooh, that's so easy.
And when you flick it up, it gives it like a nice little point on
Yeah.
it.
Like a taper.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I thought you were like in my mind, these shooting stars were going to be like, the curve and then something going on. But
oh
this
my gosh,
is
no.
so much,
No.
it's prettier. It's like more aesthetically like complimentary and it's so easy.
Super easy. Just make sure to do it really fast.
Yeah. This is like a mark making technique for like line drawing anything, flowers, you name it. But yeah, the flick of the wrist to taper up is really lovely.
Yeah, that was a lifesaver for me. I used to do
Hmm.
it with a ruler and all right, I'll also add, I'm gonna turn this paper over because the bottom is wet. But if your bottom is dry, you don't have to. That sounded weird.
I did not even think about it. I'm the one person ever who will never, that's what she said, because I am always setting myself up and never realizing it.
Okay, so I'm gonna add a couple of bigger stars. And to do that, I always start with a little diamond. So I will draw a diamond on my paper, diamond.
Perfect.
And then I will add the lines coming down, up, side, side.
Teresa's just having a little laugh. That's so pretty. Elizabeth's asking, how would you have the shooting star reflected in the water? My follow-up is, or would you?
I wouldn't because, well, me personally, I wouldn't because for me, it seems like it's coming from behind the mountain
Behind.
and
Yeah.
everything from here, although you get some reflection of the planet because it's huge, but from here up, I feel like that's not that part of that sky.
Yeah, because you'd have to have, like, if you wanted to do that, you'd also want to incorporate the mountains too. So
Mhm.
don't even worry.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
It does look, because they're smaller too, and behind it looks like they are in the very background. But that's not to say, my personal opinion getting in here, Elizabeth, if you wanted to do that, you totally could. And my
Absolutely.
suggestion would be to instead of like how on her paper they're flicked up to the right, top right, you would flick them to the bottom left so that it was like a mirror reflection.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I would
Actually, I
do
would have
if you
never
wanted
thought
to
of
do
that.
that. Huh?
I would have never thought of that. And I'm just adding a few larger dots. Okay.
So pretty.
Thank you. I'm gonna add one last thing because I can't stop.
Okay, what are we doing?
I'm gonna add a little bit of shimmer to it
Shimmer.
to make it sparkle.
You can't go wrong with anything sparkly.
But I'm going to add some iridescent shimmer so that you can't see it from straight up. You'd have to like tilt the paper to see
You're so fancy.
it.
What are you using for this?
Oh, these are my shimmers this is huge. Let me see if I can get it in from the ones that I make, the handmade watercolors. And it
Perfect.
is the Sprout Creative.
The Sprout Creative on
And
Instagram and on the websites.
yeah, oh yeah, it's everywhere. And this is Fantasia. So you can see here, it's like it looks white, but I don't know if I can catch the light. It has like a purple
It's
and a
like
purple.
pearlescent-y. Oh, that's pretty.
So I'm just going to add just a little touch of that to the planet here and there. And let me just wet this up. And not too much. Let me dry my brush a little. And I'm cleaning it in between so that I don't pick up or drag any of the other paint.
This is gonna be so cool. Debbie said I was totally channeling you. Couldn't find my white gouache, so I've been using Daniel Smith iridescent shimmer.
Oh, perfect.
That's a good use for them because
Yeah.
I remember like sampling the dot chart and feeling so dissatisfied with that whole entire section. And I'm like, what am I going to even use this for?
Oh,
But
no.
that makes perfect sense.
I add shimmer to everything.
Do you? Yeah, that gives it just like that extra finished look. And then obviously it's a little shinier because it's wet, but like it's still going to have that kind of effect when it's dry.
Yes. And
Oh,
it's gonna be a
so
little bit more
pretty.
subtle when it's dry.
Yeah. You guys, look. Hey, listen, if anyone's painting along or you do it later or you watch the replay and you do it later, please share it and please tag Vanessa. Her handle is, it's in the description, but it's Vanessa _paints_. And then she is also at the Sprout Creative. Is there any punctuation? I don't think so.
No.
So the Sprout Creative is her watercolors, but it would be kind of silly to tag that if you're not using her watercolors. So if you are, that's great. Otherwise, tag her, but also tag me because I really want to see what you guys do real bad, especially if you use different colors, because that's also really fun.
Especially if they use the colors you suggested.
I know. Can you you guys, it's so perfect. Oh, I can't show you because you can't see me, but those are basically the colors that I painted my nails last night.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to dry this real quick, so I'm going to mute.
So, okay, she's drying it. I'm just going to narrate. She's drying it with an embossing gun. Notice that she's moving super, super fast. And the reason for this is because this particular tool gets very, very hot. My suggestion, if you are using white watercolor paper, is to maybe go even 2 inches further away from the paper and move this fast, because the heat from this will cause burn marks on your paper. And they turn brown, which is so annoying. So make sure you're moving super, super fast. The darker paper, it's not going to matter as much, but you don't want it to like warp or curl or whatever. You can also use a hair dryer. But if it's in your craft room already, it's an embossing situation. Yeah, use an embossing tool. Just move fast and stay at least 2 inches away from your paper. Okay,
oh,
so
gosh, I forgot how soft this paper is.
Huh?
I forgot how soft this paper is.
I was gonna just call that out. Yeah. Is it softer than the white?
Yeah, much, much softer.
That's good to know. You guys, here's a fun tip. Before you put paint on, excuse me, painter's tape in general. Now, obviously you're going to want it to stick. So maybe only do this once or twice, but Vanessa might disagree with me. If you take your leg, your pants, and have your strip of tape ready to go and just touch it to your pants twice, it's going to take some of that sticky away because it's going to pick up some lint. And then it will be better to prevent tearing on your paper.
I do that all the time. I do
right?
it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
Except this paper is super soft.
I don't think I've ever taped the black because I don't think I've ever done edge to edge on the black yet.
Oh
But
yeah.
now we're all going to.
Very soft. Look at all of that came off.
Oh boy.
But it didn't like compromise the paper too much. You just won't be able to paint on that part.
Yeah. And if something is like framed or it's not that big of a deal, but if you wanted to make something beautiful for somebody who is paying you dollars.
Exactly. Maybe don't tape your paper. Clip it down.
Yeah. Or maybe just pick a tape that's like a washi where it's a lot lighter. Just make sure if you do like go on the pant leg first or use like a lighter tape that you make sure the edges, especially when you're near them, are always completely edged down. You don't want any of that lift because you will see the paint lift and it will spread into the border, which is annoying.
That is.
Or worst case scenario, you can cut that part off, but then you're losing the dimensions. So
I think I'm done.
yes. You guys,
did I make it? Oh, look at that. Almost on time.
No, I don't even look at the time when I do lives anymore because I always go over. Awesome. This is so beautiful. Just because I know that chat takes a minute or the video takes a minute for chat, let us know if you guys have any lingering questions. And otherwise, I'm just going to compliment the heck out of this because you made this walkthrough so stinking easy.
Thank you.
These are those compositions that, you see and you're like, okay, there's so many dimensions, literally, no pun intended with like different dimensions. Okay, maybe there is, but it's like, where do I start? How do I do all of this? So this walkthrough is awesome. You guys, Vanessa has so many awesome tutorials and she's constantly serving this creative community. So make sure her YouTube link and her Instagram link, they're both in the description of this video. So be sure to follow her channel. And she's also on the Pigeon Litters blog all the time as part of the design team. Just make sure you follow all of her stuff and buy her watercolors because you just saw how they work. And so
thank you.
Yeah. Yes. It looks like everybody is just happy with the session. So thanks you guys also for tuning in and hanging out with us on your whatever time it is where you are, your Monday morning / afternoon / evening. It's always so fun to interact with you all. Otherwise, any closing thoughts, Vanessa?
No, I had so much fun. I love doing lives. I do lives a lot over on my Instagram as well. So
yes, she sure does. I was just looking at settings like, do I have to end the call or can I just stop the live stream? I don't want to just abruptly end with Vanessa and not say thank you off camera. It's technology. You guys learned that I'm an elder millennial. So yes, she does lives all the time, loves lives, loves tutorials. She's just, oh, look at it now. Now that it's dried-ish, that iridescent. Oh, that's fancy. That's fancy. All right. Thank you guys so much. And we will see you next time. Be sure to check out Summer Creative Retreat also if you're catching this before August 2021.